Trump made unilaterally. The Regional Food Bank of Northeastern New York has already been devastated by these cuts. They've had 27 tractor trailers full of food canceled. 1 million pounds of fruits, vegetables, eggs, meat. And guess where most of that comes from? New York farmers. New York farmers are who actually supply this. And this was already a noxious amount, and now there's a 1-2 punch because they want to cut SNAP, the program that feeds hungry kids and hungry people, to smithereens. That's what they want to do. We're on the precipice of what is a real catastrophe. Right now, as the budget they announced late last night actually, in the budget they announced late last night, Republicans are rushing through to try and pass Trump's tax bill. And they've locked themselves into, listen to this, $230 billion in cuts to SNAP. $230 billion. That's the federal government's main program, has been for decades. It used to have bipartisan support. No more, evidently. It's the federal government's main program to fight hunger. The House is unveiling the specifics of their proposal this week, but they've already said what it's going to do. It's the largest cut to SNAP in all of American history. All of American history. It's as backward as it gets. Stealing from SNAP, taking food away from the hungry. And why are they doing this? To pay for taxes, to pay. Why are they taking food away from the hungry? To pay for Donald Trump's tax cuts for billionaires. God bless the billionaires, you know? They made a lot of money. They don't need a tax cut, particularly when it comes out of the mouths of hungry kids. And we all know when a kid goes to school hungry, they can't learn. They can't progress. It's the fundamental basic that is so desperately needed. So, it's a double whammy. First, the original cut to the Department of Agriculture, and now these devastating and even deeper cuts to the SNAP program. So I'm here to do two things. First, to stand with our faith leaders and our advocates who are on the front lines of feeding the hungry, and they're going to demonstrate how bad these cuts would be. To show we're not just showing up with words, but with faces, with fixtures, and families, to show how essential SNAP is. But second, we're calling on our New York House Republicans to block this bill. In this region is Congresswoman Stefanik. Is she going to stand for this? Because if we have 6, 7 Republican congressmen in New York State, if only 4 of them would say they're not for cutting SNAP and won't vote for a budget bill that cuts SNAP, won't vote for this reconciliation bill that cuts SNAP, it wouldn't happen. It's in their hands. So, we're asking them to withhold their vote until these SNAP cuts are totally reversed. The cuts that have decimated their farmers, their constituents, all of our farmers and constituents. We need an unequivocal commitment not to cut SNAP. Let me explain how devastating these cuts would be if Republicans make this cut. Everyone here, Sister Betsy, Reverend Dustin, our families, our hunger advocates, is sick to their stomachs about this. How will our most needy afford to put dinner on the table if SNAP benefits shrink? And by the way, all this BS put out by some of the propagandists that the money goes to alcohol or candy and stuff, there's great limits on where the money goes to. And it goes to healthy foods, fruits, vegetables, meats, things like that. SNAP is a lifeline for 3 million families in New York. 112,000 kids, seniors, and families in the capital region rely on SNAP. 112,000 kids, seniors, and families here in the capital region alone. They rely on it to eat. If the Republican plan for at least $230 billion in tax cuts go through, it would hurt everyone from farm to table. Farmers like Lori, where are you? There you are. From Indian Ladder Farms in Altamont. She sells apples to Amy Klein and Capital Roots, which they in turn sell in our communities from the Veggie Mobile right here. Right there. Often using SNAP, but if SNAP is cut, farms like hers are hurt, and hurt badly. Food banks have already been cut to the bone by DOGE. Those are the cuts I talked about. Our churches, our community groups, I know everyone here is so caring that they'll do their best to still try to feed the hungry, but they won't be able to. They just won't. There are too many hungry people these days, too many, and there just won't be enough food. Families will be left with less money to buy groceries. Under the plan, each person would be cut down to an average of $5 a day for food. How can you feed somebody on $5 a day? A dozen eggs cost more than that. Healthy foods like eggs. The notion of all of this is to pay for tax. The notion that this is to pay for tax cuts, Trump's tax cuts for billionaires, is just sickening. Instead of feeding the needy, what are the Republicans doing? They're feeding corporate greed. Feeding corporate greed. The scripture, our Bible, calls on us to open our hands and hearts wide to those in need, to give food to the hungry, to drink to the thirsty, and drink to the thirsty. It teaches us no one is exempt from that call, including the federal government. In the 20th Congressional District, where we now are, 34% of the people with SNAP are children, 15% are elderly, 12% have disabilities. Why are we putting them at risk? In total, New York 20 gets $185 million from SNAP every year. In Albany County, it covers 34,000 households, 11% of the county. In Rensselaer, 15,000 households, 9.54% of the county. In Schenectady, 22,000, which is 14% of Schenectady County. We need House Republicans to join us in this fight. Many are scared of going against Trump, but if there was ever an issue to go against Trump on, this is it. Feeding the hungry, which, as I said, our scriptures command us to do. Now, in the past, they've been hiding behind smokes and mirrors, some of these Republican congresspeople. I hate to make this partisan, but that's what it is. We got to get the food to people. Anyway, they've been hiding. They say, well, we don't know what'll be in the bill, but now we know. Now we know. And it's horrible. So, I call when they say they don't know what's in the bill, bull stuff. In Brooklyn, I'd say something else, but we're here with religious people. I don't care. So it's bull stuff. If there's waste or abuse, show us. We'll make it more efficient, but show us the waste. Don't just cut the whole thing and say, oh, it's waste, without even pointing to what it is. So, the costs are amplified at a local level. It's going to hurt our state. If our state tries to step in and provide some of the money, if the counties provide to step in, it's going to hurt them because they don't have that kind of money to do it. So we're in the fight of our lives to protect SNAP, fight of our lives. We need everyone to make your voice heard. If you hear this, if you hear about this in the news media or from friends, call your congresspeople. Call Congresswoman Stefanik's office and say, don't vote for these cuts. Call Congresswoman Tenney if you're in her district. And downstate, call Congress members Lawler and LaLota and Gabarino and Malliotakis. Langworthy in Western New York. Call them. Tell them. Plead with them. Don't cut SNAP. It's too important for us. Now, before I call on our speakers, I was asked to talk about 3 other topics briefly. And so I'm going to do that right now, and then we'll get to our speakers. First, on the new tariffs, the new change in tariffs. Sadly, it looks like once again China has gotten the better of us. China's virtually made no concessions. It's another example of Trump chaos. He has one policy one day, a different policy the next. Who knows what he'll have 30 days from now? Who knows? On drug prices, well, this is the same thing Trump tried in 2020. Prices didn't get lower. Let's see if prices come down. It's actually been Democrats that have actually not just talked about it, but actually reduced the price of drugs. We got insulin down to $35 for people on Medicare, people over 65. And now 20 drugs are being negotiated with by Medicare, and their prices have come way down. There's also a cap of $2,000 on any family. That's the most they have to pay for all their prescription drugs. So while Trump has talked about it in the past and did nothing, we've seen no results thus far. It's Democrats who are actually bringing the price down. And finally, on Medicaid, a little bit related to SNAP. This is the largest cut in history of Medicaid. It's deep and it's brutal. Hospitals in this region and across the country will close if these Medicaid cuts pass. Tens of thousands of people will be thrown out of work, and millions of people will be sicker and even have their lives at risk through these vicious, nasty cuts in Medicaid. Again, our Republican colleagues can't hide anymore and say, well, it won't do this, it won't do that. It's devastating, devastating. And as I said, hospitals, nursing homes will close, millions will lose health care, and many, many will be sicker and even have their lives at risk. All for one reason: to pay for tax cuts for the billionaires. Just like with SNAP, it's a disgrace what they're doing with Medicaid. And we're going to fight that all the way as well. Okay? Now, we have some great speakers here today. And let me, hold on, get the right list. Okay. The last page. Nope. 4 out of 5. 5 out of, okay. Okay, so our first speaker, of course, is someone well known in this region for her good works, and that is Sister Betsy Van Dusen. She's the CEO of Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Albany, and she's going to call up 2 neighbors in Rensselaer County that they serve, Lindsay Wright and Ralph Wasson. So, Betsy, where'd you go? Here you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Schumer, thank you so much for working for the people of New York and this country. We need these conversations to be about the people, and not about politics. Catholic Charities of Albany spans 10,000 square miles, and last year we were privileged to serve more than 80,000 individuals. With the many services provided, it was more than 250,000 services. We do a huge amount of work through our 11 food pantries and 3 soup kitchens, as well as assisting people to apply for food stamps and in residential settings. The proposed cuts have real and direct impact, and I'm happy to introduce Lindsay Wright, a resident of Troy and a mom.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Hi, thank you. Hi, how are you today? So I have a special needs child, and we get food stamps, and I'm also disabled myself. I have a rare condition, and if everything gets cut, we're kind of screwed, unfortunately, because we depend on it. I've been seeing the prices at the stores, like you can't eat healthy right now. Everything's tripled, doubled. I know families out there that can't even get food stamps that should be able to get them, but because of the price and the way that they have the food stamps, like the way they have it right now, you just can't, it's too much. They make too much. So we need help. So thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Weston.
Thank you,
Weston.
Senator Schumer. It's
Thank
a
you,
pleasure
Ralph.
to meet you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
I am a conservative, but this issue goes way past party lines. My family, if they cut SNAP anymore, my family's going to go hungry, you know? And I agree with Senator Schumer that something must be done, and that we need to contact our Republican Congress people and senators and pressure them to not do this. It's going to hurt so many people. And Medicaid cuts, one of my best friends just died because they cut her Medicaid. And she lost her Part B Medicare, you know, and there she was without being able to get needed cancer treatment. She literally died at home. And for me, that's been hard. You know, she was a great lady. If it wasn't for Associates for Training and Development, I'd be in the bucket right now already myself. They've given me an opportunity to go back to work as a disabled veteran and to be productive again and to support my household. But without the SNAP, we're not going to make it. And I implore you to please contact your Congress people, your representatives, and like Senator Schumer already said, and tell them we can't stand for these cuts because you're going to starve a lot of people. And I get hungry sometimes. We get food, we run out of food sometimes, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Senator,
Well said. Thank you
so much, Senator.
And as you can see, I don't have to tell you, both these speakers came right from the heart. This was not some manufactured speech. Okay, next we have Reverend Dustin Longmire of Messiah Lutheran Church over in Rotterdam.
Thank you so much, Senator Schumer. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. It's part of the Lord's Prayer that millions of Americans pray every single day, including millions of folks who voted for the current administration. And that's because, as Ralph was saying, nutrition security is a bipartisan issue, has long been a bipartisan issue. We know that folks in rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas, all of it, actually, SNAP benefits go slightly more to people in rural areas where there's certainly a number of up in Assemblymember or Representative Stefanik's district. Give us this day our daily bread. A poor day laborer, a guy named Jesus, you might have heard about him, taught that prayer to his followers, inspired by the Jewish prophets that he read so deeply as well. Because, not as a prayer to drop bread out of the sky, but rather as a reminder for people every single day that when we actually share with one another, when we see the world through the eyes of abundance rather than scarcity, that true community can happen, that people can thrive, that we can all live life abundantly. Give us this day our daily bread. A 2022 study by the NIH, National Institutes of Health, showed that 63% of emergency food programs across this country are faith-based institutions. I can tell you, and furthermore, that since 2019 in New York State, the number of people visiting emergency food programs has grown by 70% already. That's before any of these potential devastating cuts. Where I serve at Messiah Lutheran Church's Rotterdam Community Center in Rotterdam, New York, just a little over a year ago, there were 35 folks visiting our produce pantry every single Friday. We recently hit 150 people. We are already in one of the worst food affordability crises since the Great Depression. These cuts are just going to make it so much worse. So, dear friends, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, please, everyone, call on your elected leaders to make sure that the folks in charge, that President Trump, hear the key line of the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. We need to protect SNAP. It is a critical program because it helps us all of us, live together in community and experience abundant life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Great job. Tom Nardachi from the Regional Food Bank.
Drop that for you.
Where are you, Tom? There you are. Nice to see you. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. First of all, thank you for your courage, your leadership, and your care. And Lindsay and Ralph, thank you very, very much for telling your stories. Because this is what we need to do. We need to tell the stories of the people who are affected.
Right.
At the food bank, sometimes we can feel like we're a little far off from actually what's happening day in and day out. But here's the facts. To date, as Senator Schumer said, we've lost 1 million pounds of food. Translate that. That's 750,000 meals. That's 750,000 meals that are gone right now. And that's just a start, because the total cut is actually 7 million pounds. So we've already lost 1 million. There's 6 more million pounds that we're not going to have over the next year. And then compound that year over year. The lines at the pantries are longer than ever. Sister Betsy will tell you, Natasha will tell you, Reverend Dustin will tell you. And SNAP goes away. The lines, it would stretch throughout the city of Rensselaer. The lines are as long as ever right now, and we're doing it to kids, seniors. You know, I was at a senior site 3 blocks from here on Thursday. The fear, that's the other part. People are afraid. They're afraid of what's next. They're afraid they're going to lose their health care. They're afraid they're not going to have tomorrow's meal. Right here, 3 blocks away. So we appreciate you coming here.
Thank you, Tom.
City of Rensselaer, Ground Zero, Sister Betsy, everything that you and your volunteer team does here and your staff. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
And our last speaker, last but not least, is Natasha Pernica, head of the food pantries for the Capital District. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making this a priority. I've been doing human services work for decades, and people say to me often, Natasha, how are you going to end hunger? And I say, well, that's a great question. The number one way to end hunger is through living wages. But today we're talking about the number 2 way to end hunger. SNAP is America's greatest anti-hunger program. Not only is SNAP providing families resources to have dignity and choice by shopping at a grocery store and purchasing food that they're used to eating, they know how to cook, their children like, it's culturally appropriate to what they're used to eating, but they also have a huge economic impact in our community. So not only are you providing people with resources to feed their families, but the economic impact on the community is more than $1.50 per dollar that's invested in SNAP. It's a win-win for the economy and for all of the millions of people struggling right now to make ends meet. Right here in New York's capital region, we're a coalition of more than 70 food pantries. From 2023 to 2024, we had the greatest jump in the number of people coming to food pantries just to make ends meet. 42% increase. We went up to 104,000 people right here in our community last year turning to food pantries. These are working families, working people. In fact, I was at a coffee shop the other day filling up a box of coffee to take to a meeting for work. And the woman who was getting the coffee said, oh, what meeting is this for? And I said, oh, a coalition of food pantries. And she said, oh, I just tried calling to find food this morning. She said, I work 3 jobs and I'm a nursing student and I'm having a really hard time getting food. Working together, we can do more than any one of us alone. And any cuts to SNAP at this point will push this onto our charitable food system that already is doing more with less. We cannot stand for that at all. This is the United States of America, so I want to ask you, who deserves to eat? We all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Okay, so now we will take questions first on this subject, then on tariffs, drug prices, and Medicaid. And I was also asked to speak about the Qatar plane. I'll do that after. So questions on this subject.
Senator, just as far as if these SNAP cuts do go through, is there any other alternative that you guys could maybe work out to help subsidize either the pantries or these people?
Well, in the past, if SNAP was cut, you might have relied on the Department of Agriculture, but they've cut that. So it's a 1-2 punch, and the 2 programs that really provide food to people are being slashed. So there really isn't an alternative. The state can try, the community can try, but they don't have enough money to do this.
Senator, the Department of Government Efficiency through the United States Department of Agriculture seems to be requesting a lot of information that's previously not been shared from state SNAP programs, things like applicants' names, addresses, co-applicants, other people in their family. Do you have any concerns about that?
I do. I have no respect for DOJ respecting people's privacy. They want to use this information, whether it's here or with Social Security or in other government programs, to really just go after people and not be fair to them. So I think it's a very bad idea, and we will fight it. Other questions on this subject?
Senator, you're telling folks to call their representatives. I'm curious what conversations you have had with members of Congress, Republican members of Congress.
Well, I've been in every congressional district just about, urging people to do it. And the conversations that have to occur are from the people to their Congress members. And that's why we're asking people who care about SNAP, who care about Medicaid, who care about tariffs, to call their representatives, particularly if it's one of the 7 Republicans in this state who have the power to stop it. Okay, anyone else on this subject?
Senator, when it comes to the DOJ, you talked about, if there are problems, to show them to you guys, and then you can cut any waste.
They say there's waste, fraud, and yes, great question. They say, DOJ says there's waste, fraud, and abuse, and we say, show us specific examples. They don't have any. And why? They don't want to cut because of waste, fraud, and abuse. We all want to get rid of any waste, fraud, and abuse that occurs. They want to cut to give tax breaks to the billionaires. Period. Other questions on these subjects? Anything on tariffs? Anything on these subjects only? No. But I want to say something about the Qatar airplane. What is happening with President Trump getting Air Force One from Qatar is nothing short of international bribery. It should be investigated and stopped immediately. It's a disgrace. And we're going to attempt to bring legislation to the floor of the Senate under the arcane rules of the Senate to stop it. Okay?
Senator, why are you controlling the topics?
Because these are the subjects that we want to talk about. Okay?
But I want to talk to you about something other than what's...
Well, you come. Okay, go ahead. Ask your question. Just a question.
Yes. This is about guns in synagogues. This is a Talisman that has a concealed carry pocket on the side. How do you feel about the guns in synagogue? If it was in your synagogue,
Look, what I would say is this. I think I am the author of the Brady Law and the assault weapons ban, and in general, we should not have criminals be allowed to get guns. We should have be careful as to who gets guns, but if they're a law-abiding citizen, that's one thing. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Photo all together?
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
All right, gather in, folks. Somebody, actually, no, this side's taped in. Okay, hold up your signs. Okay, hold it together. Yes. Smiles. Yay. Smile.
That means you.
Yeah. Or, yeah. Do you want to get a photo with? Would you guys like to have a photo?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great.
Why not?
Sorry, it's not.
Yeah, I'll take it. All right, with
Good.
Lindsay here.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me see.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
You did a very good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Ralph, do you have? Of course, yeah. Get on
And
in
then
there.
maybe with both Ralph and Betsy together.
Okay, sure.
But let's do
we'll
Ralph.
do one, and then we'll have her come in on the side. All right. Over here, boys. Okay, Lindsay, do you want to get on the
Lindsay.
other side?
Yes.
of the stage?